Mistress Claressa Shields has finally landed a brand deal, y'all. Finally landed something. But before you get excited, before you start clapping, before you start celebrating this so-called moment for the woman who has been in every blog for every wrong reason for the last 12 months straight, I need you to sit down. Because what looks like a win from the outside is actually the exact receipt that proves the entire theory. The undefeated boxer who told the world she was the algorithm, the woman who stood on a live stream and swore up and down that the sponsors were going to come, that the brands were going to line up, that Nike and Adidas were going to be knocking on her door any minute now. That same woman, 10 days out from her August 15th fight at State Farm Arena, just announced her big corporate partnership. And the corporate partner is her boyfriend's daughter's lip gloss company. Let me say that again slowly so it lands. The brand deal is Papoose'S daughter's lip oil line. That is the ceiling. That is the offer. That is the entire haul after a year of chaos, a year of crash-out lives, a year of dragging opponents, a year of age-shaming and fat-shaming and calling everybody broke while the ticket sales for her own headlining fight at a 20,000-seat arena were still limping along like a wounded animal on the side of the highway. And here is the part nobody is connecting yet. The lip gloss situation and the ticket sales situation and the Remy Ma situation and the Zeus Network undercard situation are not four separate stories. They are one story. They are the same machine running the same play, and this DAZN Cosmetics announcement is the moment the machine finally showed us the wiring underneath. Because when we get to the part of this breakdown where I walk you through what a real brand deal actually looks like versus what this is, and I promise you we are getting there, you are going to understand that everything Claressa Shields has been posting, every photo shoot, every recreated wedding pose, every "I am the algorithm" declaration, was never about boxing. It was about propping up an ecosystem of people who all need each other to keep eating. And the sponsors, the real sponsors, the Gatorade sponsors, the Nike sponsors, the Powerade sponsors, the Dove sponsors, they watched all of it, and they said no. Every single one of them said no. So now she has a lip gloss deal from the household. And we are supposed to clap. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Let me set the table for anybody who has been living under a very quiet rock for the last year, because you need the full picture to understand why this DAZN Cosmetics announcement is so devastating, and why it is not the win her camp is trying to sell it as. Claressa Shields is, on paper, one of the most decorated boxers in the history of the sport. Two-time Olympic gold medalist. Undisputed champion across multiple weight classes. The resume is real. The resume has never been in question. The problem has never been the boxing. The problem has been everything that has happened outside the ring for the last 12 to 18 months, and specifically since her relationship with the rapper Papoose, real name Shamil Maki, became public in a way that most of the hip-hop world was not prepared for. Because Papoose, for those of you who somehow missed the last 2 decades, was married to Remy Ma. Publicly. Loudly. On television. On reality shows. In songs. In interviews. In viral moments about love and loyalty and standing by your man when he was locked up. That was the brand. That was the entire brand for years. And then Claressa Shields shows up in the picture, and suddenly the internet is asking one question over and over again, and it is the same question a certain viral radio interview finally forced into the daylight. What exactly are we doing with a married man who is not legally divorced from his wife? That question is the tension that has been driving every single one of Claressa's problems ever since. The sponsors want nothing to do with it. The mainstream sports networks want nothing to do with it. The corporate partners who normally throw money at Olympic gold medalists want nothing to do with it. Because at the end of the day, if you are Gatorade, and you are trying to sell a sports drink to a mother of 3 who is buying groceries in the middle of Ohio on a Tuesday afternoon, you cannot have your face of the brand athlete trending every other week for a mistress accusation. You just cannot. That is the math. It has always been the math. And Claressa has been screaming into the void for months, trying to pretend the math does not apply to her. The stakes are enormous. Financially, we are talking about the difference between a career that ends with generational wealth and a career that ends with a lip gloss collab. Culturally, we are talking about whether the boxing world respects her enough to keep booking her at premium venues. And reputation-wise, we are talking about whether Claressa Shields ever gets to shake the word mistress for the rest of her public life. That is the question this fight card was supposed to answer. That is the question this brand deal was supposed to answer. And the answer just came in, and it is not the answer she wanted. Now let me walk you through what has actually been visible to anybody with a phone and an internet connection over the last 6 weeks, because the surface evidence alone is damning before we even get to the deeper layers. Piece of evidence number 1, the press conference for the August 15th fight at State Farm Arena. If you watched the footage, and I know a lot of you did because it went semi-viral for all the wrong reasons, there was almost nobody in the room. The MC of the event had to literally ask the staff from Win Records and the staff from Solita Promotions who were physically in attendance to stand up and clap so it would sound like there was a crowd. That is not a rumor. That is on video. That is documented. When you have to manufacture applause at your own press conference for your own headlining fight 10 days out from the event, that is a screaming red flag that the market is not responding the way your team told the venue it would respond. Piece of evidence number 2, the ticket sales themselves. State Farm Arena holds around 20,000 people for a boxing setup. As of right now, secondary market listings on the resale sites are showing prices that suggest availability is not a problem. When a fight is genuinely selling out, you cannot find seats under 4 figures anywhere. When a fight is struggling, you see tickets floating in the $200 range with premium seats not moving. Look at the market data. It tells the whole story before anybody says a word. Piece of evidence number 3. The Zeus Network undercard announcement. Somebody in the camp had the bright idea to try to boost ticket sales by adding Baddies talent and Ray J to the undercard, thinking that reality television celebrity attached to a boxing card would move the needle. And the response from the market was a collective shrug. Because as one commenter put it perfectly, why would I pay $200 to see Ray J and the Baddies cast at State Farm Arena when I can see them for free every single day on the Shade Room and the Neighborhood Talk? That is not a knock on those personalities individually. It is a knock on the strategy of trying to use B-tier celebrity attachment to fix an A-tier ticket sales problem. It never works. It has never worked. And it did not work here. Piece of evidence number 4, the Monique play. When the ticket sales still were not moving after the undercard announcement, somebody in the camp called Monique. Monique, of all the Atlanta-adjacent celebrities available in the market, Monique. A comedian who has publicly and repeatedly stated she has been blackballed from mainstream Hollywood for years, whose brand at this point is largely built around calling out Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey on every available microphone. That is the celebrity attachment the camp reached for. And I want you to sit with what that tells you about how many phone calls got returned before Monique's did. Because when you are the 2-time Olympic gold medalist and the biggest celebrity attachment you can secure for your fight week is a comedian in an active public feud with the 2 most powerful black entertainment figures in America, the message that sends to every mainstream sponsor is loud and clear. And that message is what leads us straight into the mid-video moment, because you have not even seen the part that made me sit down and start recording. And oh, do I have more for you? Because if you thought the ticket sales situation and the Monique phone call was the messiest part of this rollout, you're about to find out that we have not even scratched the surface. What is coming next is the part the Claressa Shields defenders in the comments section are really not going to like, and I want you to stay locked in because when I get to the part about who is actually cashing the checks on this Demony Cosmetics announcement, and whether Claressa Shields is one of them, you're going to understand why this entire situation is so much more embarrassing than the surface reading suggests. Stay with me. We are going deeper. And the deeper we go, the worse it gets. Now let me walk you through the cultural layer, because this is where you can really feel the temperature of the culture turning on this situation in real time. Cultural evidence piece number 1, the Shyneka interview on the Young Jack radio show. If you have not seen this clip, you need to pause and go watch it, because Shyneka, who has been fair to everybody on every side of the story, finally asked the million-dollar question directly to Claressa's face, on camera, on air. How much longer are we doing this with a married man who is not legally divorced from his wife? And the internet went into orbit. That clip has been recirculated across every platform. It has been reacted to. It has been dissected. It has been memed. And the reason it went that viral is because it was the first time a mainstream hip-hop adjacent interviewer stopped treating the boxing storyline as the main storyline and started treating the mistress storyline as the main storyline. That was a cultural pivot. That was the moment the media narrative flipped. Cultural evidence piece number 2, the Lotto ring walk announcement and the immediate deflation that followed. Somebody in the camp announced that Lotto, whose most recent album has struggled on the Billboard charts and who has been navigating her own set of complications around a body of work that a lot of listeners characterized as a love letter to a married man, was going to be doing the ring walk performance. This was supposed to be a moment. This was supposed to be a headline. This was supposed to move tickets. And instead, the announcement barely trended for a full news cycle before the conversation shifted back to Claressa's personal life. When your biggest musical celebrity attachment gets buried within 24 hours by a viral radio clip about your relationship status, that tells you exactly which story the audience actually cares about. Cultural evidence piece number 3, Remy Ma's silence, and then Remy Ma's activity. This one is the most dangerous one for Claressa, and I want you to understand why. For a long stretch of this saga, Remy Ma stayed largely quiet on the specifics. She would post a lyric. She would post a vague message. She would go on a live stream and speak in generalities. But over the last several weeks, she has been noticeably more direct in interviews, more direct in appearances, more direct about the fact that from her position there has been no legal divorce. And the culture has been rallying around her in a way that is genuinely unusual. Every time Claressa posts, Remy Ma's comment section fills up with support. Every time Claressa does a photo shoot that people read as provocative toward the previous marriage, the community closes ranks around Remy. That is not a marketing team. That is not paid engagement. That is genuine cultural loyalty, and Claressa's team appears to have massively underestimated how deep that loyalty runs in the hip-hop community. Cultural evidence piece number 4, the photo shoot recreation situation. Look, I want to be fair here. I have seen people argue that the photo shoots Claressa and Papoose have been doing are just standard couple photography, and I understand the counter-argument. Not every romantic photo is a shot at somebody. Fair enough. But when the aesthetics of specific shoots start visually rhyming with older, publicly known images from the previous marriage, the internet is going to notice. And the internet did notice. And every time one of those images dropped, the discourse went straight back to the same place. The mistress conversation, the divorce paperwork conversation, the loyalty conversation. Every attempt to reframe Claressa as a girlfriend, a partner, a co-parent-in-waiting has been received by the broader culture as an aggravating factor. Not a softening factor. An aggravating factor. That is a marketing catastrophe. And now here comes the gear shift, because the surface story and the culture story are only the top 2 layers. Underneath them is a machine, and I am about to open the hood. Here is where I have to stop the entertainment portion of this breakdown and shift into the part of the analysis that actually matters, because if you only came for the shade, you can leave now. But if you want to understand why Claressa Shields, an actual undisputed champion with a Real Olympic pedigree, is currently accepting a lip gloss collaboration from her boyfriend's daughter's beauty line as her marquee brand announcement 10 days before a headlining fight card at a major American arena, you have to understand the 3 systemic layers underneath the story. And they all lead to the same conclusion. Layer 1 of the system, the corporate sponsorship pipeline in women's combat sports, is brutally narrow, and reputational risk is the number 1 filter. When a Fortune 500 brand evaluates an athlete endorsement, the calculus is not about talent. It has never been about talent. It is about audience overlap and reputational safety. Serena Williams sold Gatorade because Gatorade could put her on a screen next to a soccer mom in Iowa without a single complication. Simone Biles sells Athleta because Athleta can put her on a billboard in a Nashville shopping mall without a single boardroom conversation. Claressa Shields right now is a boardroom conversation. And the moment you become a boardroom conversation, the sponsorship pipeline closes. Not partially. Entirely. Layer 2 of the system, the boxing economy for female fighters is already structurally underfunded, and the sponsorship layer is what makes those fight cards profitable. Female boxing purses, even at the elite championship level, are a fraction of what male fighters pull down for equivalent stakes. That gap has always been closed on the margins by sponsorship dollars, patches on the shorts, patches on the robe, promotional appearances, brand integrations across fight week. When a female fighter has robust corporate sponsorship, the fight card economy works. When she does not, the fight card economy relies almost entirely on ticket sales, pay-per-view splits, and streaming platform guarantees. If you look at what is publicly known about Claressa's rollout for August 15th, the patch sponsorships appear to be from smaller, ecosystem-adjacent brands rather than the Tier 1 national partners that would signal real corporate confidence. That matters. That matters a lot. Because it means the entire economic engine of this fight is running on ticket sales, and we already established that the ticket sales are not where they need to be. Layer 3 of the system, and this is the one that most people are not talking about, is the internal ecosystem economics of the Shields-Papoose partnership. When you take a step back and look at who is actually generating revenue in this arrangement, an uncomfortable pattern emerges. The publicity Claressa generates drives attention. The attention drives clicks. The clicks drive engagement across the household's other business ventures. Reportedly, according to conversations that have been circulating and various things the parties themselves have said publicly, financial support inside the relationship has flowed in specific directions, and now, allegedly, the promotional infrastructure is being used to push a beauty brand owned by a family member. That is not a sponsorship. That is a closed loop. That is money entering the ecosystem on one end, moving through Claressa's public profile, and exiting into a family business on the other end. And that is the fundamental difference between what a real brand deal is and what this DAZN Cosmetics collaboration actually appears to be. A real brand deal is external capital flowing into the athlete. This is internal capital being recycled through the athlete. Those are not the same thing. Not remotely. And when you connect all three layers, the picture becomes undeniable. The corporate world is not showing up because the reputational risk is too high. The boxing economy is buckling because the sponsorship layer is not there to support it. And the household is now using the promotional infrastructure Claressa built through her boxing career to prop up an internal beauty brand instead of using it to attract external capital. That is not a rising star signing her first big deal. That is a closed system trying to look like an open one. That is a family ecosystem trying to cosplay as a corporate partnership. And once you see it that way, you cannot unsee it. Every photo shoot, every announcement, every strategic press moment starts making a different kind of sense. Which brings us to the truth bomb, and I need you to sit with this one because it is the reveal that reframes everything you thought you were watching. Here is what the DAZN Cosmetics announcement actually is. It is not a brand deal. It is a receipt. It is the physical, documentable, screenshotable proof that after a full year of chaos, after a full year of crash out lives, after a full year of I am the algorithm declarations, after a full year of insisting the sponsors were coming, the corporate market has delivered its verdict on Claressa Shields, and the verdict is no. Not no for now. Not no until the noise dies down. No. Full stop. Because if there was a single mainstream sponsor willing to attach their name to this fight card, we would already know about it. If Nike had made the call, we would have seen the campaign. If Gatorade had made the call, we would have seen the commercial. If Adidas had made the call, we would have seen the shoe. The absence of those announcements is the announcement. And the presence of the DAZN Cosmetics collaboration, timed to drop on August 15th, the same day as the fight, is not a coincidence. It is the household closing the loop on itself because nobody outside the loop was willing to write the check. And I want to be careful with my language here because we are dealing with alleged financial arrangements and I want to stay on the right side of the line. Reportedly, based on how these kinds of household brand collaborations typically work in the beauty industry, and based on what has been publicly discussed about the arrangement, the collaboration appears to feature Claressa as a face and a promotional vehicle for a product line owned by Papoose'S daughter, DAZN. The public messaging around the launch has focused on new packaging, upgraded aesthetics, and the same formulation as previous releases. Whether Claressa's name appears on the physical product, whether she is receiving a percentage of proceeds, whether this is a licensing deal or a flat-rate appearance arrangement or an equity partnership, has not been publicly disclosed at the level of detail that would normally accompany a real celebrity brand deal. And when the transparency is not there, the reasonable analytical conclusion is that the arrangement is being structured to benefit the brand owner, not the celebrity face. That is how these deals work when the celebrity does not have leverage. And Claressa Shields right now, in this market, in this moment, does not have leverage. That is the truth bomb. That is the reveal. That is the thing the entire year of chaos has been building toward without her camp realizing it. But here is the part that gives me actual peace when I zoom out and look at this whole situation with clear eyes, because the story is not finished, and the story was never really about Claressa Shields to begin with. The story has always been about the person who kept her composure, who did not chase every headline, who did not throw a punch back every time she was mentioned, who watched the entire ecosystem of chaos unfold and simply continued to be herself in public. Because while all of this has been happening, Remy Ma has been doing exactly what she has always done. She has been showing up to the appearances she was booked for. She has been raising her family. She has been speaking with measured intention when she chooses to speak, and staying quiet when she chooses to stay quiet. She has not launched a competing product line to score a news cycle. She has not started a rival ticket sale battle. She has not attempted to book her own celebrity ring walk to trend against somebody else's fight card. She has just kept living. And the culture has noticed. And the culture has responded. That is the contrast that crystallizes this entire year in one sentence. One person spent 12 months trying to convince the world she was the algorithm. The other person just kept being herself, and the algorithm followed her home. That is what integrity looks like in real time. That is what dignity looks like in real time. That is what a real brand looks like, not a lip gloss collab timed to a fight card, but a public presence built over decades that a corporate partner would actually want to attach to without a single boardroom hesitation. And I want to be clear, because this is not about pitting women against each other, and it is not about being cruel to a champion boxer who has legitimately accomplished things in her sport that deserve real recognition. This is about the difference between a career narrative that survives a scandal and a career narrative that becomes the scandal. Remy Ma's public brand survived. Claressa Shields' public brand became the story about the scandal, and now the sponsorship market is pricing that reality accordingly. That is not personal. That is business. That is how the machine works. And the machine has spoken. The right person is in the right position, and I do not say that with any kind of glee. I say it with the clarity of somebody who has watched this exact same movie play out a dozen times in hip-hop and in sports and in entertainment over the last 20 years. The people who chase the algorithm eventually get eaten by the algorithm. The people who build slowly, quietly, and consistently end up owning the neighborhood the algorithm was built in. That is the pattern. It has never failed. And it is not failing here. Claressa Shields will fight on August 15th. She may even win. The boxing part of her resume is real, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But the brand part of her career, the sponsorship part, the mainstream corporate part, the part that determines what her life looks like at 45 and 50 and 60, that part is being written right now. And the ink is not the color she thought it was going to be. And this is only the start. Because between now and August 15th, we have two very specific developments to watch that are going to determine whether this Demni Cosmetics announcement is the ceiling of Claressa's brand era or just the opening chapter of an even messier one. Development number 1, the fight itself and the walkout. If the Lotto performance actually happens, if the ring walk gets the production budget the camp promised, and if the crowd shows up, that changes the temperature slightly. If any of those three things underdelivers, the story after August 15th gets significantly worse, and the sponsorship market is going to close even harder than it already has. Development number 2, the reaction from Remy Ma's camp on and around fight night. Because if history is any indication, silence has been the most powerful weapon in that camp's arsenal, and the more silent that side stays while August 15th plays out, the louder the contrast becomes. Watch both of those developments carefully, because they are going to define the next 6 months of this story. And you know I am going to be here breaking every single one of them down as it happens, so if you are not subscribed yet, fix that right now, because you do not want to be finding out about the next chapter of the saga from somebody else's channel. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. Be part of the conversation when the next domino drops. And speaking of dominoes, the next video you need to watch right after this one is the deep dive I have been putting together on the Lotto album situation, because there is a specific reason her project underperformed the way it did, and it is directly connected to the same reputational math we just walked through in this video. There is a name, a label conversation, and a rollout decision that all tie the Lotto situation back to the Claressa Shields situation in a way that nobody has connected yet on this platform. And when we get to the label conversation in that breakdown, you are going to understand why the mistress narrative in hip-hop right now is not a coincidence. It is a business model that a specific set of executives have been running for the better part of a decade. Click that video next. I am telling you, you do not want to miss it. Talk to you very soon.